Aloha interwebs, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Tuesday and I missed the opportunity to upload my Movie Monday video on Monday. But I want to get it out there because I got a chance to go see Lincoln. And it's right on the heels of the SAG Awards that came out. And Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor in a Film for his performance in this movie. And let's just say it's really well deserved. We're gonna check the mail. Why don't you guys look at the trailer and we'll talk about the movie. Okay.
We can't tell our people they can vote yes on abolishing slavery unless at the same time we can tell them that you're seeking a negotiated peace.
It's either the amendment or this Confederate peace. You cannot have both.
How many hundreds of thousands of...
Lincoln is a movie that kind of culminates the last few months of President Lincoln's life as he's getting ready to sign the 13th Amendment and get enough votes behind it to ultimately end slavery in the United States and hopefully do what he can to stop the Civil War. This movie I enjoyed quite a bit, not just because Abraham Lincoln was my favorite president, but he was. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later, but cinematography and Steven Spielberg's directorial choices, as well as the casting of this movie, all came together really well to make a very, very well balanced, very interesting film to watch. And Daniel Day-Lewis is so deserving of his SAG Award for Best Male Actor in a Film for this particular role, because he's so convincing and consistent with his performance throughout the movie. Whether it's just kind of side conversations or the full-blown speeches, it's you know, we don't have any home videos of President Lincoln doing his thing back in the day, so all we really have is people's interpretations, and especially when it comes to actors and actresses who do their homework about the period and the region and where people are from and how they speak and the dialects that they use and the gestures and body motions, just basically from other people's writings about, you know, these historical figures. That's all we really have to go on. So when somebody does their homework and puts out a performance like Daniel Day-Lewis does in this movie, and does it so convincingly and does it so consistently throughout the whole movie, it's hard not to be sucked into it. It's hard not to be drawn into that character, especially when you know Daniel Day-Lewis from other films where he can be so like crazy and intense, and this portrayal of President Lincoln is just, it's so fascinating to me, very interesting to watch this person's portrayal of that role. And Steven Spielberg's choices to, when it comes to shooting a scene, angles to use, interesting ways to portray these characters, you know, who are historical figures, with each other and against each other, and who actually came together to do an actual historical thing. So it's a very interesting movie to watch. Very excited about Daniel Day-Lewis's performance going into watching this movie because of the hype, and I enjoyed him in the past as an actor doing you know, different movies, but I was very interested to see how it was going to come across, and it was he did it so very well throughout the entire film. A very consistent, convincing performance, and Steven Spielberg's directorial choices from a storyteller's point of view was fantastic in this movie. There's, you know, it's not just a straight across the board story being told. There's, you know, there's comedy and drama, and then, you know, there's racism, and, you know, it's a roller coaster. It really does go up and down, and it's really easy to get drawn into it, and, you know, intense moments being built up on things that aren't based around something exploding, you know, other than the powder keg that was America back then. But I mean, literal explosions or literal gunfights. I found myself being very surprised at how intense I was paying attention to, things being said in the Congress and the arguments and fights that people were having. So it did a very good job, a very convincing job of kind of conveying the period. So it was very interesting to see and hear and feel kind of what was going on back in those time periods. And this movie does a great job of kind of conveying those the points that I think that I wanted to find out more about during this period of time, especially since Lincoln was my favorite president. When I was in school and I was here, and you hear the stories about things like George Washington and the things that the founding fathers did to kind of progress us as a country even back then, and Abraham Lincoln, everything that he did to at least try to make steps to get this country on equal footing as far as abolishing slavery and things like that. It was emotional. And even in it's not it's a great comparison, but even in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, it's really not a historical account, but even when in that movie it got to the point where Lincoln went off to the theater and he was assassinated, in this movie, in this version of it, it's still emotional for me. It was it was a horrible thing that happened to a good man. And even though especially 3, 2, 1, and even though even in this movie it hints on things that as far as Abraham Lincoln's being the president during the Civil War and not being able to, and not wanting to do things that could have possibly ended the war and saved countless amounts of lives on both sides, he felt that this issue of slavery was greater than that, and that's what he was fighting for. So there's, and he and his family and probably a lot of people who were standing up for the amendment at probably one point or another did own slaves. That doesn't mean that they didn't try to get out from underneath that and do something better for this country. And I think this movie really does its best to hit a lot of those chords to let people understand really what was going on back then. So, great movie. I think you guys should check it out. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Thanks for coming by the channel, interwebs. I appreciate it. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.
That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.